So Swain is actually not a late game champion like people tend to believe. He does infinite scale because of his passive, yes, but he falls off much harder than real late game champions. Hello guys, my name is Husumlol, and if you don't know about me, I make educational Swain content focused on mid lane. And I've been playing Swain all the way back since season 2, when I first started playing the game when I was 10 years old. At first, I just played for fun, but as the years passed, I started tryharding really hard in season 10. Swain had been rebugged since my old main, but I still really liked him. A big reason why I fell in love with Swain, because I love healing and mages. So Swain was the perfect battle mage for me. Swain is really good at dealing AoE damage to everyone, and he has very good healing. He's also very hard to kill, and I love the fantasy about being some unkillable demon who was hard to take down and needed multiple people like a raid boss. So one of the biggest reasons why I love Swain is because he's one of the best team fighters in the game, and I love team fighting. He has great damage, great utility, great CC, and he's very tanky. He can frontline for your team. I find that very enjoyable to play, and that's why I would recommend him to a lot of people who love battle mages.
Swain's best matchups are champions that are melee range, meaning they are very close to him. Swain is really good at dealing with enemy champions that are just in his ult and Q range. Galio, Yana, Naafiri are very good examples of great Swain matchups as they can't do much to him, and he can typically just press ultimate in lane and he can run them down. He also has great poke, and it can be very difficult to walk up on him, since he has reliable CC and damage if they do. So let me give you an example. Let's take Naafiri. The reason why she is a very good matchup: she is melee and she is an all-in champion. She is an assassin that dives onto you, but once she is out of abilities, she has nothing more to do, and Swain is really tanky, so she usually cannot just kill you, so if she goes on you, you can just all-in her. You also have the Swain CC tool, and his E is also very easy to land on her. Because of her small dogs, it will automatically explode and you can CC her. So a big reason why Swain is really good to melee champs is because of his Q. His Q deals more damage the closer you are to the enemy. So tanks or assassins like Naafiri, for example, who are just right there in your face, will deal max damage. They also have a hard time getting away from you, since they cannot win against you when you are in ultimate form. Therefore, Swain is really good against melee champs, and he will typically just auto-win against them. Swain's hardest matchups are typically the opposite of what his best matchups are. He is really good against melee champs, but he struggles against range. So matchups like Sundra, Wei and Ariana, those three champs can easily outrange you, and you will have a really hard time in laning phase. They can hit you from afar and you cannot hit back, because Swain is a battle mage that also means he has low range. He will not fight anybody he cannot catch. Therefore, Swain is a champ who is generally countered by long-range champs. He also struggles against champions that deal out tons of DPS. Champs like Azir and Cassiopeia can just melt him, even if they are in melee range. Cassiopeia will just do way more damage than you can, and you will never win it because of her reliant DPS. So getting good and comfortable with your movement is one of the most important parts about Swain. Swain is very immobile, he has no dashes and very little movement speed, so learning how to maneuver a champ who has no dashes will set you apart from all the other Swain players. Getting comfortable at dodging Syndra's Q and her stun can make the matchups a lot easier, and that goes for a lot of the other hard matchups, again like Orianna and Wei. All of those champs are reliant on skill shots, so movement is everything.
So on Swain, you want to start Q into all champs that get close to you, meaning all low to medium range champs, ranging from Galio up to Ahri. Those are the champs you want to start Q against. You want to start E against champions that are long range, stuff like Syndra or Wei. Champs you cannot reliably land Q on level 1 and start poking. Just take E and farm up to level 2, 3 before we can take further. You want to be maxing Q first, followed by W. W is Swain's main scouting tool. It's a long range ability where you can help out your team from across the map. Finally max your E and put points in ultimate every time you can. You want to start with your Q versus low range champions, so you can start poking them from level 1. The faster you start the harass, the lower HP they will be. The reason why you take E against long range champions is because they will be very difficult to land Q on, and they will most likely try and just harass you with their superior range. You just want to have E, and if they walk into you, try and hit you, you can maybe pro out E and start collecting some stacks. So for Swain's items, the build I used to get me all the way to Challenger EU West is Blackfire first into Cosmic Drive. A lot of people like to buy Rylai's, but Cosmic Drives gives more individual solo carry potential. It's a higher damage item and it gives you a lot of movement speed, which is the best stat in the game. After Cosmic Drive, start looking at the enemy team. Do they have a lot of 80 damage or do they have a lot of AP damage? If they have a lot of 80 damage, build items like Sonya against assassins, Frozen Heart against auto attackers, Randuin's Omen against champions that critically strike, and if they have a lot of magic damage, build Spirit Visage if your team has enchanters, build Abyssal Mask if your team has a lot of AP and the enemy team has a lot of AP, and build Force of Nature if neither of those are the case and you just need flat high magic resist. After getting some resistance, feel free to round out the build with a Liandry's. The thing about Swain builds is they're very versatile and very flexible, so you can build almost anything after Cosmic Drive, such as heavy damage if your teammates need it, stuff like Liandry, Riftmaker, Void Staff or Rabadon Staff Cap would suit you, but you can also be flexible, and if your team needs a frontline, build defensive items like Force of Nature, Spirit Visage, Frozen Heart, Sonya's.
But in all honesty, building Swain can be very difficult. He can buy almost all items in the game and he can probably make them work. It takes a lot of game knowledge and Swain mastery to fully know when to buy what. You need to look at the enemy team and ask yourself, what do I need against this team? Do I need to deal out a lot of damage or kill their tanks? Then items like Liandry's and Rift will do you well in 3rd and 4th. Or do I need to protect myself against 480 champs on an enemy team? Then a Frozen Heart and Sonya will do you well. If you ever question yourself on what to build, just building damage is not a bad idea. So a standard build you could buy every single game could be Blackfire, Cosmic, Liandry, Sonya, Spirit Visage, Sorcerer's Shoes or Boots of Swiftness. If the enemy team has a lot of auto control, you can buy Mercury Treats, and if they have a lot of auto tigers, you can opt for plated steel caps.
Swain's early game is all about wave management. You want to start pushing the wave level 1 so you get to level 2 before the enemy mid laner. While pushing, you can poke the enemy mid laner with Qs. Swain's Q hits the enemy. Swain's Q is an AoE spell, so poke the enemy while simultaneously pushing the wave. Swain has a lot of burst if you can manage to land your E ability, and once you've unlocked all your 3 basic abilities, you can start looking for kills. You want to make sure you lasted as many minions as you can while trying to poke down the enemy laner. Keep farming and pressure the enemy for kills. If you get no kills, you've probably still made a significant gold or XP advantage from bullying the enemy champ with your Qs. If you're in a hard matchup though, just do your best to farm and get to level 6 as quickly as possible.
In the early game, make sure you farm as well as you can, but pressure the enemy for kills if they walk up. Swain has a very good poke if he is into low to medium range champion, so harass them every time they go up to last hit. Don't be scared and try to go for kills if you poke them down. Swain has a lot of damage in his kit, so don't let anybody disrespect you.
So, the mid game starts around 14 minutes and is typically when one of the bot lane towers fall. As a mid laner, now you want to swap with your bot lane and go down and bot yourself and let them go mid. Swain's mid game is all about catching, pushing, side waves. After you've pushed a side lane, rotate mid and look for a team fight. Remember, Swain is really strong in team fights and you would like to be in each and every one of them. If you can't find a fight mid, simply go back to the side lane, push out the wave again, rotate mid and look for a fight, and that process you simply just repeat until a team fight happens. Swain is not a late game champion like people think. He's actually a mid game champion, meaning his strongest point in the game is when he hits 2 items in the mid game. You want to fight as much as possible here, since this is your strongest point. Securing a fight in the mid game and winning it and put you in a position where you can end the game early before your champion falls off. If you didn't manage to end the game in mid game and you've now entered the late game, don't worry. Even though Swain is not as strong anymore, he can still do a lot of damage. Damage isn't the only thing Swain can provide though. He has tons of utility and crowd control. Therefore, in your late game, do your best to simply be in every single team fight. You can still contribute a lot to your team. You're a big front line who's hard to kill, and if you land valuable E's and lock down enemy carries, pull them into your team and still carry the game. At this point in the game, Swain takes a lot of attention from the enemy because of his ult and his E. All the enemy champs will do their best to focus down Swain, while your team can swoop in from the side, take down the enemy champions. You want to try and stay alive as long as possible and just create as much space, be as much of a distraction as you can, and then you would still have been a valuable asset to your team. Try and end the game quick though. Swain doesn't do very well against, for example, a fed hyper carry like Jinx on 5 items. She will melt you even though you have a lot of HP. Stick together with your team and dominate the fights.
Not only will a fit hyper carry like Jinx take you out quickly, but also fed mages, 5-item Sundra or 5-item Wei will be much stronger than you. That is why you would like as Swain to end the game as quickly as possible, before you get outscaled. In the late game, try and use your W to scout out vision. You can also use it on enemy minion waves to push side lanes. This will create a distraction where the enemy has to take the wave you're pushing with W, and you can try and set up objectives. So getting Baron control and looking for team fights and securing objectives is the best way to close on the game. So if you find yourself in the late game, make sure you group up with your team. Put pressure to map with your W, secure objectives and take down the enemy base.
So, Swain's role in teamfights is to be a distractor and space creator. Space means that your teammates have room to walk up because you're there, big front line, taking all attention. All enemies' eyes are on you, meaning your carries and walk up and start going crazy on the enemy team. You want to front line and lock down enemy carries with your E ability. That being said, you still have tons of damage to deal. So don't feel like you're just a useless frontline. You can still hard carry fights alone. Especially if you get a lead, you will become an unkillable demon that nobody can take down.
If you want to know more about Swain, go check out his channel Husumlol or find his link in the description. He has hundreds of videos explaining how to play Swain. And he is practically playing against anyone. He makes highly educational content facing masters, grandmasters, challenger players and sometimes even pros.